Every tabletop game has a sweet spot, a player count that best balances downtime, player interaction, and board size. In this video, we're going to look at 5 games that are great with 3 players. Maladum and Core Space, whilst technically 2 games, are really the fantasy and science fiction flavours of the same brilliant adventure skirmish system. Both games look simply stunning, whether you want twisting dungeons or sprawling space stations. And the slick rules which underpin these games are so versatile that you can play a whole range of scenarios and utterly immerse yourself in the experience, scratching your wargaming, board gaming, role-playing itches all at the same time. However, this depth of gameplay means that there is a lot going on. Each round, sinister robots or shambling undead wander onto the board and make life difficult for the group of characters you've hired to complete the quest. As the game progresses, these foes become more numerous and more dangerous. On top of that, there are NPCs wandering around. Someone to chat or trade or join your party, or steal your stuff, or eat your face. There can also be galactic police, or security guards, or nefarious criminal gangs. The list really does go on. A game of Maladum or Core Space feels more like a living, breathing world than any other dungeon crawler or open world skirmish wargame that I've played. Because of this, you don't want too many players involved in this already bustling world. With just 2 players, it's too easy for the gangs to avoid each other, and you can feel a bit like you're playing 2 solo games alongside each other. With 4 gangs, it's complete chaos. Everyone is in everyone else's face, and the game often degenerates into wild combat quite quickly, and you miss a lot of the other fascinating things that are going on. For me, therefore, 3 players is perfect. Destinies is a narrative-driven adventure game mixing fantasy and folklore from all around the world. It features some beautiful art and production and some lovely minis, some of which are teeny tiny. The unfurling of the game's stories is handled by an app. Now, I know this can put some people off, but let me assure you this is one of the best and most intuitive apps I've ever used with a board game, and it really adds to the game's atmosphere. Plus, with just 3 players, it's really easy to position your tablet or phone so that everybody can see. You can play Destinies with between 1 and 3 players, but 3 is absolutely the best. As you explore the gaming world, flipping over tiles to reveal more of the setting, the characters, the story, you learn as much from other players' turns as you do from your own. On their turn, each player is free to move around the board and interact with NPCs or a site of interest. And everything that's revealed during the game happens in front of every other player. So you're constantly learning things from other characters' goes. Perhaps you spent a while trying to find the spirit of a dead witch, and then one of the other players discovers a haunted wood. Now you know where to go. Having 3 players perfectly aligns with Destiny's rock, paper, scissors approach to winning the game. You see, each character has 2 ways that they can secure victory. One of them gives them a shiny halo, the other one, a couple of little horns. Each of these goals overlaps with one of your rivals, so that you might be trying to find the same locations or perhaps unearth the same artifacts. It creates a great 3-way tug of war that loses some of its tension if you don't have all 3 players. And as much as any of this, the stories and encounters in Destinies are so entertaining that you want to see as much of them as possible, so you really need the full player count. Zone Wars is a fantastic skirmish wargame where you get everything you need for multiplayer madness in the 2 starter sets. It's quick and light enough that you can play several games in an evening, but with enough tactical depth to keep things interesting. For this particular brand of chaotic post-apocalyptic fun, 3 players works perfectly. One problem that can occur with any 3-player wargame is that you get ganging up, and this can spoil the fun for whoever gets attacked by 2 enemies at once. In Zone Wars, tokens are drawn randomly from a bag, and it's a bag that doesn't just contain tokens for each warrior band, but for the zone itself. You see, the zone itself is full of strange flora and fauna, radiation hotspots, and bizarre weather conditions. As a result, the zone is like another player, one that serves as a great leveler and makes coordinated ganging up really hard. There's just so much chaos. You also tend to have only 3 characters per gang, and at any point one of them might be plucked up by a magnetic storm and whooshed halfway across the board, or grabbed by a passing giant bird who's feeling a bit peckish. In the best possible way, Zone Wars is anarchic fun that you can't take too seriously. You certainly don't get games where people are enacting grand strategies. With 3 players, turns whiz past in a mad scramble for survival as you try and grab some loot and make it off the board before acid rain dissolves you or some other bizarre feature of the zone means that you have a really bad day. In Marvel United, players take on the role of superheroes and work together to defeat a nefarious villain, or in some cases, an entire gang of villains. The core gameplay is simple and smooth and contains one of the best co-op elements I've ever seen. And the game was clearly designed with 3 players in mind. Each time a hero acts, they place one of their cards down on this track. This provides them with actions they can take during their turn, either move, fight, or heroic action. Now, here's the clever bit. The hero who acts next gets access to the symbols on their own card, plus those on the card that was laid previously. That means that players are always talking to each other, always working together, and considering how what they lay can not just help themselves, but help the rest of the team. The villain gets to act after each 3rd hero turn. So with 3 players, it's 1 turn each, and then the bad guy. Perfect. With 6 locations in each game, 3 players is just the right amount to either spread yourselves around to avoid a villain with area attacks, or get together and bring the smack down. At this player count, you can even have your characters specialise, with one focusing on moving people around, one focusing on smashing up the bad guys, and the last one rescuing civilians whenever they're in peril. Shadows of Brimstone is an epic dungeon crawler that now has so many starter sets and add-ons that it could almost be a hobby in its own right. For me, Shadows is the spiritual successor to the original Warhammer Quest. It's big and bold and brash, with lots of enemies to fight and awesome treasure to find. And just like Warhammer Quest, Shadows lets you keep your character from session to session, gaining new abilities as you level up in a way that's every bit as satisfying as any role-playing game. It's a big game though, and I mean that both in the sense of being a table hog, which it undoubtedly is, and in terms of its setup and teardown time. That means that player count is absolutely crucial. With just 2, you can't really split up when you want to explore the ruins, and you sort of miss out on a little bit of the fun. If you have 4 players though, the game can run at over 3 hours, and I find that's just a little bit too long. So 3 heroes is absolutely perfect. So those are 5 of my favourite 3-player games. If you've got some examples of your own, I'd love to read about them in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If so, please consider hitting the like or subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon, and until then, keep rolling.